What's up, witches? I'm coming to you from the beautiful plains atop this man-made hill at one of the local parks. But I'm out here enjoying the beautiful weather today because I wanted to do a follow-up to a video I also made at one of the parks here, all about working with nature and land spirits. And I've been thinking about that a lot more recently, especially since our little trip that we took to the Cahokia Mounds down in St. Louis. Some of the experiences that I had while we were there have really got me thinking a lot about, especially in Norse paganism and heathenry, proper guest host behavior is very important. And I've come to realize that proper guest host behavior also extends to nature and the land and the spirits and beings who inhabit that land. This might be a little bit of a hot button issue today, but especially as someone who lives in North America, something that I think every pagan and nature worshiper in North America is eventually going to have to grapple with, is this concept and this idea that we are on native ground. And I think it is important to at least acknowledge that and be cognizant of it, even if it's just in the back of your mind. Just acknowledge and be cognizant of the fact that you are on native land and respect those who lived on this land before and respect their ancestors. It's really just that simple. I was having a conversation on Discord with someone, with people of native backgrounds, because when I was doing my video all about elves and Alfar and the Sidhe, the concept of the Sidhe and what they are and what they are like as beings, in some ways does remind me of indigenous spirits and ancestral spirits here, where indigenous spirits, both non-human and ancestral, and the breeze is picking up as I get into this. But these indigenous spirits here, both ones that are non-human, were never human to begin with, and ancestral spirits, are, in my opinion, to be treated somewhat like the Sidhe in terms of both being, in some cases, beings who were never human, or beings who in some cases were once human but have become so old or so powerful or both that they're just kind of so far removed from that state of being that they've changed or evolved into something else entirely. And I think both the Sidhe and ancestral spirits everywhere can be somewhat like that. And especially with ancestral spirits, they still want to stay involved in either their families or just humanity's affairs. And so some of these ancestral spirits will often take on that role, both Alfar and other types of ancestral spirits, of staying behind and taking on that work of either aiding their family line or just aiding humanity in general. And we can also see that in Buddhism in the concept of these beings called the Bodhisattva. And so just like with interacting with the Sidhe, we have to learn to abide by the rules, customs, and taboos of these native spirits, of these places and the spirits that dwell there, in order to interact with these spaces and with these beings in a way that is respectful and that honors them. Basically, what the moral of my story is, and what I came out here to talk to you guys about in this video, is just to take the time when you're out in nature to just listen to what the land itself is telling you and what the spirits there are telling you that they want or what they need from you. Because, and I definitely noticed this, especially at the Cahokia Mounds. Here we were walking around the grounds, and some of the mounds in particular, the burial mounds, were giving off these massive amounts of energy and just vibes. We had brought some humble offerings to give, just some tobacco, and as we were circling around some of the burial mounds, I, in my humble white pagan girl innocence, was like, well, I'm not going to actually go near the mounds. They were obviously off limits, and you couldn't walk on them with good reason. But maybe I'll just go off of the paved pathway to these trees over here and leave my offering there in view of them. But the minute I stepped off that pathway and the closer I got to these trees, I started noticing that the vibes were just off, and that every fiber of my being and all of my senses and all of the alarms were ringing and just basically telling me not to go any closer, that the offerings were not needed, not wanted, and especially not there in that place. Like, the entire energy of those mounds was just back off, stay away. Another mound nearby, slightly down the trail, was more of a similar sensation where the closer we got, I just started to feel disoriented, lightheaded, ground wasn't quite stable underneath my feet, and even in some cases nausea. So we backed off, and the next mound that we approached had similar energy. It wasn't quite as intense. To me, it came off as more of just a no thank you. Not quite as harsh as the first mounds that I tried to approach, but still, don't approach. Thanks, but no thanks. Your offerings aren't wanted here. Just be aware of and listen to those feelings, like trust those gut instincts, because even in those cases where we might be approaching with good intentions, some places just don't want us there, and we need to just accept and be okay with that. This also, and I think I touched on it a little bit in my video on like circle casting and if you need to, but this is one of those instances in which I really found that casting a circle can be useful just as a way when you are on unfamiliar territory or just new ground or doing a group ritual, anywhere where you want to do things like that but still be respectful of native or indigenous spirits, native land spirits, nature spirits of all types that might be living there. It's just helpful to use the circle to establish those boundaries when you're performing spells and rituals on someone else's land. And to me, it's definitely important to be respectful as pagans who are wanting to go to these places and invite in our own gods and to worship and offer to them, but without giving off this air, even if it's unconscious or inadvertent, of us basically invading these people's space. We don't want to feel like we're trying to push them out or be rude guests while we're there. Those spirits, in some ways, whether they're willing or not, are hosting us, and so we need to be good and respectful guests anytime that we're outside of our homes, on any type of outside land, whether it's native land or not. There are still some types of spirit, nature spirits, what have you, that are going to be living there. And we don't want to give off this idea or this atmosphere that we're trying to be rude or disrespectful or push them out or trample all over their space or have our own deities basically come in and invade. And so it's become very important to me when I'm doing these group rituals, especially at gatherings, to use the circle as a way of being respectful, establishing those boundaries and those parameters, saying that we're going to be inviting in our own gods and ancestors, etc., to celebrate with us and to honor them. But it's only in this space for this set amount of time, and then we're going to be leaving and cleaning up after ourselves. So we hope that, you can just welcome us during this time. And trying to just, approach it from a peaceful, friendly manner. So, in conclusion, I just wanted to stress to you that no matter where you live or where you practice, every place that you go is or once was sacred or special to someone in some way. So just treat it as such. Treat it with respect, and your own spirit will always be in tune with nature. Listen to your instincts, and if you are going against what nature and what the spirits want, Trust me, they will let you know. On that note, I will leave you. Until next time, stay classy, pagans.